Nothing ever occurs to God. Nothing ever surprises him. He never has to scramble to come up with a solution. He never has an emergency come up. He knows everything. He foresees everything. I was thinking about the news this morning, and it struck me that God doesn't follow current events. God determines all events, past, present, and future. He never has to figure out what his next move will be. So what does that mean? It means there's no place for criticism, or doubt, or fear, or anger, or second guessing, or arguing, or disputing God's choices. Ladies, we've got to get it into our heads and hearts. He is God, and we are not. He is sovereign. He is all-wise. His ways are unfathomable, incomprehensible. We can't understand them with our finite minds and perspective. Now, God's ways do not always seem right to human reason and sense. Sometimes God's ways are hard, painful, confusing to us, not to him. But we stand in a long line of sisters who have been faced with the inscrutable ways of God. You see them all through Scripture. Sarah, whose husband's wavering faith on 2 occasions that we know of put her life in jeopardy. Ruth, being widowed, living in a strange land, becoming the object of racism and hardship. Hannah, years of infertility, unfulfilled longings, month after month after month, longings for a child. And then to top it all, ridicule from a rival wife who delighted in tormenting her, and a husband who didn't understand her longings for a son, and then getting the son and giving that son back to God. The inscrutable ways of God. You go through Mary of Nazareth. The inscrutable ways of God. She would have not scripted that teenage pregnancy. A sword piercing her soul, offering up the one who would be offered up for the sins of the world. And God's ways for you will not always make sense to your human reason. They may mean physical challenges, weakness, weariness, the challenges of aging, cancer. I have a friend right now who is suffering in late stages of Lou Gehrig's disease. Horribly debilitating, painful way to die. Inscrutable ways of God. It may mean for you financial hardship, family difficulties, infertility, a special needs child. There's a woman who I believe is here whose daughter has been in a coma for over a year, if I'm not mistaken, as a result of a tragic accident. Inscrutable ways of God. You'd never script it this way. Caring for a parent with Alzheimer's, unfulfilled longing for a mate, loss of a child, prodigal sons and daughters. And on the list goes. But we stand in that line with Jesus, for whom the ways of God meant divesting himself of his rights, experiencing rejection, ridicule, and ultimately death on a cross. The inscrutable ways of God. We would have never come up with that script. Your circumstances may seem difficult. They may be hard to understand. They may be incomprehensible to your feeble sense, but be assured God has an eternal purpose and plan for the display of his glory throughout all of this universe and every other universe, and he is working out that plan. And though at times it seems that the plan is not working, or the outcome seems in doubt, some part seems strange to us, it may not be the way we think the script should be written. We can't know, we can't comprehend the details. We know that his ways flow out of the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. He doesn't make mistakes. That mother with a prodigal daughter that I talked to in recent weeks said to me with tears in her eyes, if I hadn't been through this, I wouldn't know God the way I do. I wouldn't desire him the way that I do. And then verse 36, here's the heart of the matter. For from him and through him and to him are all things. Here we have a call for a God-centered life and perspective, a God-centered worldview, tethered to who God is and to his eternal purposes. If you don't have that, you will be set adrift on a sea of shifting emotions and wild ways of thinking. You will be depressed, you will be angry, you will be bitter, you will be perplexed, you will be confused, you will have no reference point for your life if you don't get this. From him are all things. He is the source of our existence, the origin. All things were created by him. We have no life apart from him. He is the ultimate cause of every circumstance that touches your life and mine. Ladies, the ultimate issue is not your husband, your kids, your singleness, your health. And in fact, to resist or to resent the circumstances, the situation in which you find yourself, is ultimately to resent and resist God himself. And by the way, that's a battle you can't win. From him are all things. He is the source. If you stop and realize this situation isn't from that person, ultimately, all things are from him. And through him are all things. Not only the source, but he is the sustainer. The scripture tells us that he upholds the universe by the word of his power. What a word. And in him, all things hold together. Do you realize that apart from his power and his word sustaining the planets, the sun, the moon, the stars, sustaining us, that it would all fall apart? It would be unmitigated disaster. He sustains it. Through him are all things. So you say, that's lofty. So what does that mean? Well, one thing it means is that when you think you can't hold things together any longer, and we all get to those places, the fact is we can't hold anything together. We can't even hold ourselves together. But he can hold us together. Now unto him who is able to keep you from falling, we are upheld by him. He will enable you to do his will in whatever circumstance you find yourself. From him are all things, through him are all things, and to him are all things. He is the source, he is the sustainer, and he is the supreme purpose and sense and goal of all things. For all things were created for him and for his pleasure. That is so contrary to our natural perspective, isn't it? Our natural way of thinking is, it's all about me. We live as if all things were from us, through us, and for us. And that leaves us fearful, angry, proud, bitter, confused, and depressed. God is the source of all things. He is the sovereign Lord and director of all things. He is the sustainer of all things. And in the end, all things, even the sinful choices of fallen human beings, some of whom you may live with. And all of us fall into the category. Even the sinful choices of human beings, in the end, will glorify God and demonstrate the greatness of his wisdom, his power, and his grace.